Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Weekend of Frivolity. The Broiler Chicken Show. Buck, 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 everybody. Actually, be interesting to get feedback on the sound quality of the broadcast today, because I'm right in the middle of moving. And the only thing actually I have left in this room here, everything else has been completely cleared out, is the computer. And I can already hear the echo, but maybe that's just rattling around in my brain here. I think I hear somebody's trying to join us. Which window is the Hangout in, I wonder? I think it's... Oh, goodness. I've lost the Hangout. I hate when I do this. It's around here somewhere. Oh, there you are. You're over there. Isn't that funny? There you go. Yeah, somebody is trying to get in. Werner was trying to get in. All right, welcome to the craziness, Werner. Looks like we just got a few people on the call here today. Not too many people. And as I said there just a moment ago, I am in the middle of moving, so it's a bit of a mess around my place. Haven't really been doing a heck of a lot on the site through the past week or so. Because of that, in fact, I even asked my level 3 class if they could give me a week hiatus. Just because it's just too crazy trying to get a move on and teach class at the same time. But I want people to get good value for their money spent. So we just basically pushed everything out another week for the level 3ers. Level 1ers are working away here, and interestingly enough, as kind of like a little break, I was looking forward to doing this broiler chicken show because, sick of moving and packing, and I still got a ton of crap to do. So I am super excited about the new digs. I actually slept there last night. It's fascinating. The air quality in this condominium building that I've lived in here for the past 3 years or so, it must be really, really poor, because I had the best sleep last night I've had in a while. And that was sleeping over at my new digs. Just it felt like there was fresh air that I was breathing. It was kind of cool. So anyway, super optimistic about the future for that. It's just I've been dreading this event. It's such a pain in the ass to move. Everybody knows how hard it is to move. So, actually, I feel pretty optimistic. And actually, it's interesting because this is a house that I'm moving into, and I hate living in these damn condo complexes. It feels so claustrophobic and jammed in here. I can already, it was kind of cool because, like, I don't know whether, like, there's a hardwood flooring, and it's kind of older. So, these buildings, they have an interesting smell to them. I mean, it's natural, right? Hardwood smell. So anyway, yeah, it was quite nice, quite enjoyable. And my new roomie is total rocking it. I'm actually pretty impressed with Andrew. He's the type of guy, like when people ask for help moving, everybody's sort of like, oh yeah, I'll see how it's going. And then like the day you're moving, right? They or like later on, halfway through the day, they're like, hey, how's the move going? You still need some help, But obviously, everything's pretty much done. I had lots of those people chiming in here over the past week or so, and I'm totally one of those type of people. Don't get me wrong. But Andrew, he was like, I'm here, let's work, and he worked his fucking ass off. I mean, old man, I was sweating bullets. In fact, we were moving furniture, and some of the bruises, I should take pictures of some of the bruises. You'd swear that I was assaulted. Man, they are just insane how nasty the bruises are. I suppose that's a function of being a big fat ass sitting on your ass for the past 4 years, and eating bonbons and trading Bitcoin, crypto. Andre says I have about 50 people that still owe me for moving. Well, that's probably smart, Andre. Andrew is even going, Brian, do you think maybe you're a bit of a hoarder? Hey, my son's artwork from when he was in kindergarten is critically important to me. I cannot function without having it. But once you have kids, it's hard to understand before you have kids. But once you have kids, I swear, like even their first fucking diaper that stinks like poop. You're like, oh, but this is so important. It was a major milestone. Well, what can you do? Actually, speaking of which, everybody wish Liam a happy birthday today. He's 21 years old. Actually, usually it's interesting because usually September 26th, that's his birthday. Usually the weather's pretty good in Vancouver. It's usually the end of the fun season, and literally his birthday comes, then within a few days the weather just socks in and the sun disappears for the next 3 or 4 months, and it's typical Pacific Northwest. I suppose a lot of these people that just moved here, they're going to see what a real Pacific Northwest is like. And I'll tell you, man, middle of December, it's pretty gloomy. Anyway, so we'll see how that goes. But as soon as I'm done here, like I said, I'm going to go get Pretty and take him out for his free Denny's meal. I got to get that. It's so funny. We got one guy. I couldn't believe this the other day. I'm moving my crap out of the damn condo, and some guy literally walks by me. I gotta have the camera on for you guys to see this. I gotta figure out how to do the camera the way Grim has it. He looks so boss, and it's the way that we should do these hangouts and these talks on YouTube and stuff, right? I should be on camera, but anyway. So I'm like moving my stuff out of this condo slowly and surely. And of course, Brian's such a cheap ass. He won't pay for movers. No, I'll do it all myself. And even still, I had to pay like $100 to stupid strata fee to move out. I had to pay like $80 to U-Haul because I buy the insurance and all that stupid stuff. To rent a van for what was it, 24 hours, 48 hours. Gonna have to blow $200 on getting the fucking carpets cleaned, it's just insulting, right? How it just adds up. So cheap ass, I'm still in this stupid move for $400 or $500. Yeah, well, last move, and I've done this a couple times. It's a good $500, $750 here in Vancouver. So I was like, fuck it, man. And I would much rather, like I said, I went and bought Andrew a really nice dinner following the move, and I'll spoil him as we go forward. But I was a cheap ass. So what ends up happening, of course, is I have break my body here. But hey, if anything is good, I want to be more active and stuff going forward, and Andrew's really young, so we'll be out doing a lot more sports and physical activity versus just me hobbled up in this condo. So I do like it, and if anything, this is a great initiation into getting more active. So I felt pretty proud of myself too for pulling it off. Yeah, well, actually, Andrew's like a kind of semi-professional DJ here locally too, and actually he and Raph are great friends, so that's kind of cool. And Raph actually is going to be around the site some more going forward. Him and Bobo. So if anything, it's kind of cool that Andrew's hip deep in the in Colin's world, right? The Hero Exchange guys. And then Raph, of course, over in the UK works with Bobo. I think they run a mutual fund or something over there. And Andrew and I are going to set up like the ultimate trading den. I think Larry hears it from the Lower Mainland. So, and then, like I said, I was moving out of the condo, and some guy walks down the hallway. He literally walks down the hallway. He turns to me and he goes, "Are you Brian Beamish, the rational investor?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Who are you?" "What do you want? You want to fight?" And he's like, "I just lived down the hallway. I didn't realize you lived right down the hall from me." So that's kind of cool. I know, isn't that bizarre? So anyway, and he's probably watching this right now, chuckling to himself. I ran into his girlfriend the other day, actually fiance if I'm not mistaken. So congratulations, Mark. And I was like, yeah, this is so bizarre that we've like literally lived right across the hall from each other for 2 or 3 years, and and I get the impression because his dog absolutely loves me. Like the dog literally jumps all over me in the hallway, and he's just the cutest little dog in the world. And I get the impression that the dog recognizes my voice. Because the way the dog looks at me, the dog looks at me like, hey, I know you. I listen to you all the time. It's pretty freaky. So anyway, all you local Vancouverites, right? What I'd like to ideally do is set up like a nice little, and actually like, sizing the furniture and, everything, all that, all the pieces I think will fit. I mean, yeah, the place looks like a mess right now. I think it'll take some time to set it up, but damn, I'm like totally stoked. So, anyway, that's what I've been doing. I'm kind of delaying here right now. You're probably, why the fuck is he just rambling on? But what I really like to do for these weekend shows, this Sunday show, is it's kind of like a dovetail to our level 1 school program. And right now, this particular week, like I'm in the middle of the move, and really, frankly speaking, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be concentrating on moving shit. But I wanted a bit of a break, and believe it or not, well, you all know, Brian loves the sound of his own voice, so this is actually like fun for me. But considering that this is a very, very difficult week for the level 1ers, I just wanted to make darn sure that I was here, and that if there was any needed follow-up, sort of lingering questions, because some of the concepts are just so big, that maybe I'd take like a half hour, 45 minutes and just answer those questions. But I mean, it's interesting, like this week is so big and it's so important. The level 1 started at about 8:30 this morning Pacific time, and it's now like 11 o'clock. So even with my pre-recorded lectures, even with all the people on the site and stuff trying to help out, Grim's still doing a 3-hour class, and it looks like they're winding up here. So as I said, if they have any follow-up questions, it's just, because keep in mind, strategic planning, trying to learn the damn capital markets in a couple weeks. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. So we try our best, but that was so funny. Josh, so DMAC over on YouTube says, did guy hear you yelling you're buying a bubble? What's so hilarious is Josh created laundry's done. Josh created the coolest meme or something like that for Twitter. It was just awesome. It was so cool. So and even too, the irony of it all is he nailed it with this movie scene, because I would argue that if I went out and mind you, I think actually he did it on the TRI PMA site. If I went out and I actually even tried to talk to a guy the other day about this, and literally they're like, "Fuck you! Don't tell me, fuck you." Oh wow, that's a cool picture. Damn, this Josh guy is the fucking shit, man. Damn, Josh. Actually, let's see if we can give you a sort of a play-by-play. So I was just talking just a few minutes ago about Raph. There's Raph. There's Josh, the man, the myth, the legend. There's our level 2 TA Marat. There's Sebastian, the NFT god. He's actually writing the whole NFT code. There's Raph's son, Magic. He's super cool. There's our this is so cool. There's Colin, right? You all know him. There's San. I'm not quite sure who these people are. There's Fjord. It's cool that I still recognize all these people. Anybody who does the free screeners on TRI. That's Alex Bajan, and I think now his wife. Oh, there's Josh's buddy. I can't remember. What's her name again? She's cool. She does the whole van life. Wow, that is such a cool picture, Josh. Damn, that is so awesome. Anna, that's right. Yeah, Anna. There's Johnny Salmon. Wow, this is such a cool picture. This is like a total who's who. There's Fjord. Hey, cool. I think, is that Alex? I can't remember. Anyway. Wow, that is so cool. Oh, all right, now I'm totally distracted. I tell you, man, this Josh, he just is bringing it. This is such a cool feed. Hey, we all know who that guy is. Sure hope he... I heard that his buddy, his German trader dude is back up on the interneting. Oh, Jesus, here we go. I guess the bull market can start again. Oh, goodness. But what was I talking about? I wanted to show you guys. This. Oh, here, this. it's hilarious.
Anybody listen? Nobody.
Hey, fuck you! Yes! Yes! Fuck you too!
How do you like that one, eh?
Oh, that's absolutely incredible. That is so cool. Josh, man, you've just knocked the cover off the fucking ball here. I'm so impressed. Just so impressed. In fact, we were even like, man, we got to give this guy a raise. Holy shit. Anyway, so you got to follow this feed. This feed is so cool. It is just so cool. And what I thought was interesting was there was something else that I had mentioned here about Josh's feed that was so cool. Yeah, and I do love how, we've got so many tangents coming out of TRI too. Like Colin, like Colin actually, for whatever it's worth, Andrew actually works with Colin, right? I guess Andrew is one of his employees. So I love the sort of intermeshing, of everything that's going on here. We're just building this powerhouse universe. And I got to tell you, man, half of the, this is going to be a cool picture to just track over the next, say, 50 years. Where do these people end up? I've told you time and time again, this guy's going to control half of the world by the time he's done. These guys, this is Mr. I'm sure we can have fun stories about everybody here. There's, like I said, there's Colin there from Hero. But this is going to be a really cool image to sort of see where these people end up at the end of this crazy life. Fascinating. All right, so anyway, gotta say, Josh, man, damn impressive. Damn impressive. Site's coming along pretty good. Of course, Fjord is desperately trying to get Brian's dashboard. Julian took that picture? Oh, right on. Excellent. Thank you, Julian. Appreciate it. Get Brian's dashboard up and running. Once the dashboard is up and running and this thing's humming along, oh my goodness. But, I've been saying that for 6-8 months. It software writing and stuff takes forever, but definitely well worth it. The school programs, man, they are up and running and humming along. Like I said, listened to Grim for about 3 hours this morning, just bringing it. Just absolutely awesome. Kiran, level 2 instructor. I showed you Kiran's sidekick. Where the hell's that? Marat, right? That's his. That's the level 2 TA. They seem to be humming along, and of course, Daniele and Kiran are also writing an advanced day trader education program on the site. So I can't wait to funnel people through that. And frankly speaking, I myself would like to try and pass his combine and become funded in our co-op. And all of you are welcome to try and do that too. I challenge all of you. In fact, actually, it's interesting. Somebody had said, hey, I want to come on the site and sort of jump ahead. And I do like Julian was saying that almost everybody that does that, we give them the level 1 exam to write, and they inevitably fail. So if anything, I do actually like that. Feel free to come on the site. If you want to jump ahead to Daniele's and Kiran's day trading program, we'll give you the level 1 program exam. If you pass it, then we can earmark you and fast forward you to the level 2 exam. If you pass that, then we can earmark you and pass you to level 3. If you pass that, then great. We think you're probably a damn good trader. We want to have you in Kiran's day trading program. He doesn't want to screw around. And the program's very small, right? So it's ideally suited for sort of TRI veteran type people. There's only I think 15 to 20 people in the program at any one time. don't want to get overwhelming. So also too, we've got guys like David O who are doing an education program, and I know got a couple. I know. Well, there are other programs floating around there, so I'd love to see how that all develop as well. So. Okay, I think that class is done. Today here is the 26th, so this was last week. I think we got most of these questions answered. There might not be any questions here today. And if that's the case, then we'll make it nice and simple, and away we go. Oh boy, nope, that's not the case. All right, so I have to have a hard stop here at 1 p.m. because, like I said, today is Liam's birthday. No fucking around. I got to go pick him up and get his free Denny's brunch. So we got about an hour and 45 minutes. I suppose that's lots of time. Let's see how we do here. So here we go. Question 1. I noticed that there is no M2 money supply data since 28 June. Okay. It's supposed to be reported monthly. M2SL. Everything looks so different when you denominate by the M2 money supply. Yeah, well, and that's the irony of it all, right? Is that there's actually a sacred law in economics. You do not fuck around with your country's money supply. Well, out goes that window. Or what? Out the window goes that theory. Sorry, everyone. It doesn't sound so bad when I'm actually blowing my nose, but when I listen to the video back afterward, it's going to sound horrible. And I'm always like, oh my God, I can't believe I do that on air. Sorry, everyone. Terrible. The powers that be have gone and messed with our sort of hegemony currency base money supply. I mean, you could argue, in Roman times, when they just simply got less and less money, they just put less and less, silver in their coins, and less. I don't know. I think they used at one point. I think they had a silver currency. I can't remember. But if I remember correctly, the way that they sort of dealt with the banker's tax was to just simply dilute the value of the currency units that were being used in society until ultimately the whole damn thing collapses. I think you can make the argument that, and actually it was interesting last Broiler Chickens, I asked somebody to post it, and I saw later on that they did post it in the lounge. If that person's watching again today, there's like over the past 400 or 500 years, and I'll keep my eye on the lounge right now, so that if you do post it, I'll make reference to it. Right, there we are. Over the past, let's say 500-600 years, it turns out that basically about once every 100 years or so, the bankers just hop to the next currency du jour. They dilute the shit out of it, and then move on to the next one. Dilute the shit out of it, move on to the next one. Dilute the shit out of it, move on to the next one. I have tweeted that out. And like I said, if anybody can find that, I'd probably dump it in here. So you're absolutely right. If you want a strong country, you have a strong currency. The only problem is, of course, that directly conflicts with our sort of me society. And since we live in these democratically elected government societies, if you don't placate the me thinking of the populace, you're not going to get reelected. In fact, you'll get run out of office when the whole damn thing breaks apart. And I think you can make the argument that the last sort of true believer in that thinking was a guy named Herbert Hoover. That when the equity market started to collapse and basically the U.S. economy contracted after a very prolonged expansion, everybody should have, grasshopper versus the ant. The ants, they save for a rainy day and all that, but no. The grasshoppers, of course, go and spend all their money, and so when the economy breaks, they're usually in debt. Of course, the banks love that, so got to make those interest payments, and if you can't make the interest payments, then they foreclose, and you could lose your house, and a lot of people living in homes, 2008, all that kind of stuff. So, and the cycle just perpetuates, and then, of course, things get bad, populace wants out, and so the populace demands, free money. And governments say, well, I want to get reelected, so yeah, I'll give you free money. Vote for me. So they get run into office. They go and print a whole bunch of free money. It's not free. It's a zero-sum game. And we go through this cycle. And it just goes over and over and over and over. It's a little sad. I ran into a guy who was an old broker guy here in Vancouver, and it was the guy I rented the U-Haul storage thing from. He contracts out the U-Hauls, but he owns a building, and he said, well, a really good business to be in right now is just storage rental. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of money people are spending for like little storage lockers, that are like 6 feet by 6 feet here in Vancouver. People will pay like $200-300 a month. I mean, you put together like a building of 100,000 square feet, you do the math, and oh fuck, that's a lot of money to be made in just storing shit for people. And of course, people don't understand economics now. Of course, governments, MMT, free money, free money. So anyway, it's just kind of funny that I ran into him, and he's sort of like, well, what business are you in? And I'm like, well, I buy low, sell high, blah, blah, blah. And it's funny, actually, because he's a good old trader. I used to work for this house, CM Oliver. And he goes, oh, yeah, did you used to work for national firms, local firms? And I went through the whole list. Oh, yeah, I did everything, blah, blah, blah. I actually think he and I worked at the same firm one time years and years and years ago under a guy named Art Smolensky. I'm almost positive. But anyway, he's actually one of the only guys that goes, well, sometimes you buy high and sell higher, right? And I was like, oh, good. Well done. And he's going, well, what do you do now? And I teach people how to plan. I mean, I don't tell them what to buy or sell. I just teach them, how do you put a plan together so that you can do this without losing your head. So anyway, back to the question. So the point of the matter here is they've gone and fucked with the money supply they weren't supposed to. So as a result, for us to actually see what really is going on is you have to divide it by the ever-expanding money supply. I don't know how often this data is published, but I do know that they've been sort of messing around with the symbols that they've used to disseminate the data on things like TradingView. So before, you used to just type in like BTC M divided by M2. Now I think you have to type in this funny thing. It's you can see it, WM2NS. I don't even know what the hell that means. But the kids tell me that this is the way that you get the money supply. M2 money stock. So there's the symbol, WM2NS. Seems a bit odd, but anyway. How often this is updated, I can't comment on that. I mean, if TradingView just doesn't update it, or if it's old data or whatever, I mean, it's nothing I can control. I mean, we're just hoping that this is even accurate. This might all just be bullshit that they're feeding us. Who knows? The irony of it all, and, anybody who would listen, over the past 10, 20 years, the great argument was that all of this government data, especially about things like inflation, is just a total load of horse shit. It's a joke, right? And I was telling this U-Haul guy, I was going... He goes, oh, God, because I even said, he's drawing up the bill, and it was like $90 or something like that to rent the damn van for a day or two. And I was like, this is ridiculous, the collapsing value of money. And he's like, oh, inflation, eh? And I'm like, come on, it. It's a damn banker's tax. This doesn't have to happen. It only happens because this is very convenient for the banksters. Anyway, that's another there. And then he even goes, yeah, but that's way beyond the public's understanding. They just can't understand something like that. So if anything, it's ironic, right? If you can wrap your head around that Money Masters video that Shark Toshi loves to just whip out, He's like Clint Eastwood, right? He just whips out the Money Masters video anytime anybody debates the banker's tax. What am I going on about? I guess I'm trying to answer this question here, but I'm doing a pretty shitty job at it. Excuse my French. What I wanted to show you was, but I don't know where I have it. Actually, all of these assets, I used to, and actually this is interesting for the level 1 program right today. The slide in the lecture is all of these assets in their regular non-diluted form. Because remember, back when I was a broker, right? This is the last time I was a broker was 2006. 2007. I left the brokerage industry right around 2007. Back then, there really wasn't an issue of them diluting the currency. They started to do it under Greenspan and to pay for the war on terror and stuff like that. They started to do repos and all that kind of stuff. But obviously this got going in earnest following, quantitative easing 2008 and stuff. So I did up this chart with all of those same assets from the level 1 class lecture material, but I did them in this WM2NS adjusted state. And wow, what a difference in an image. Commodities, I mean, clearly commodities had their heyday. This is when oil ramped up to $100 $150 a barrel. And the grain markets were very, very high at that point and stuff. Even the metal markets, for that matter, like copper, was much, much, much higher than what it is now. We did have a little surge of late. I think that this is like the lumber markets were catching up, things like that. But on balance, I mean, definitely higher than when we started, but not materially so. Debt actually should have done very well in this cycle. So this image is very, very bothersome. If we look at it, of course, just on the regular non-adjusted basis, this was a rip-roaring bull and it was straight up forever. But if you actually measured in the dilution of the currency base, wow, that is... the sad part about it is, like I said, this is the cycle period when this should have been a bull. So the fact that it was a bear when it should have been a bull, what's it going to do when it's supposed to be a bear? Oh, fuck me. And I mean, I hate to, this was the cycle pivot here where we're supposed to go from bull market to bear market. And look what's happening here right out of the gate. This looks like it's about to go into free fall. And really, that would make sense. These Western governments, if we call a spade, these Western societies are bankrupt. The only thing that was propping it up was this silly, nonsensical dream that China was just going to endlessly keep buying and buying and buying and developing and buying and buying. So, I definitely, the irony of it all is you look at the Chinese chart, and actually that's not a bull market. There was a nice bull wave following that. And shouldn't we debate mortgaging our kids' future? Fuck you, shut up. And vroom, up goes the whole damn risk market. But that doesn't look like it. That doesn't look like a bull now. That looks like it's an unwinding bear. And then if we actually look, this is when the Chinese sort of officially announced they are on the world as players. Well, ironically enough, even now, look at that. That's a huge difference. This was basically the coming out Chinese 2008 Olympics right there. So this is not a bull market. There's no huge expansion here. If anything, this looks like a trading range. So, oh boy. Actually, one image that really jumped out at me and was so cool. I really want the level 2ers to really understand this. It was this image. This is the S&P 500 divided by gold plus our beloved Bitcoin. I don't know. Does it kind of look like maybe, number one, we're at a bit of an extreme here? And then number two, geez, doesn't that look kind of W-y? We did just sort of break this trend line. This is a funny one because you notice, look how the market jumped up here and then came smacking down. And then it was respected again and again and then just sort of followed along here. We jumped back up. For me to actually think this is a bull, and what this really is this is the preference over paper assets, stocks, and commodities, gold, Bitcoin, that kind of stuff, hard assets. Is this getting ready to turn back up? I mean, you can clearly see we got a huge sell signal on paper assets right there. And that was interesting how that was January, February, March of 2019. I mean, were any of us talking? What were we thinking back in 2019? Was anybody at the beginning of 2019? Was anybody thinking about COVID then? I don't think so. So interesting that was actually the shift out of paper assets into hard assets. Of course, you pull up your Bitcoin chart and, 2019, this was basically the start of the big bull run, eh? So we haven't, really W'd out here yet, right? If anything, that level will say, yes, we've W'd. And often if I see a W happen like this, where it comes up here, this is a trap. And it'll come down and it'll just break a ton of people's hearts here. So, and then, all our sort of conversations about people like Willy Woo, $200,000 Bitcoin, end of the year, some fucking crazy ass shit's supposed to happen. I don't think we can really think in earnest that the move towards paper assets is underway until this actually W's out over here now. And then it's just going to be nothing more than just a ramping back up against these highs. That's probably going to be like Bitcoin comes back to its 38.2 and that kind of stuff. So, interestingly enough, this image here actually says that it's okay to still be bullish of commodities, bullish of Bitcoin, and not so of paper assets. But once this turns in earnest, I think this actually goes very, very high in equities favor. But that's for down the road, not now. So, you're asking question. I mean, the question really here is all about the dilution of the money supply. I mean, I got to tell you, number one, they're doing stuff that they're not supposed to be doing. And every time people do this, it ends in disaster. So I hate to say it, but basically they are paving the road for some sort of horrific financial disaster here. It's coming. Is it so bad that it's like Roosevelt, that they have to actually outlaw cryptocurrency ownership and make it that maybe you have to register all private keys with some sort of central agency? The speculative investment in DeFi and stuff like that is outlawed for U.S. citizens. Maybe. The interesting thing with Roosevelt in 1932 is they have set precedent. So any U.S. government person, that U.S. senator from Washington State. I mean, she just hates everything. I don't know if there's anything she actually likes in life. Warner? I think her name's Warner, something like that. And now she just hates crypto. Hates it with a passion. So could she come out with something along those lines? Maybe. The interesting thing about crypto, though, is I think the United States is learning. And unfortunately, the United States now is in a position of weakness, not a position of strength. In that we live in this global society now, and the internet's global. So if the Americans go and pass some really stringent laws about crypto, the developers and shit, they're just going to go overseas. Just kiss the United States goodbye. Mwah. So as a result, I don't think that the powers that be in the United States are going to let that happen. I think there's going to be a lot of blustering. And I think there's going to be a lot of Mr. Gessler as the cop on the block being a total dick. I think there's going to be a lot of that. But I don't think it gets to the point that the U.S. actually outlaws crypto. And ironically enough, what I sort of am hearing about is, in a weird sort of way, we were even sort of conjecturing this, that a few months ago, we kind of thought that there was going to be something that China was going to do this fall that was going to drive the market down. Do you guys remember that? I remember when I did this image up back in the summertime, and it was coming out of here. There was some sort of China FUD back in the sort of late June, early July period. And we all said that, well, they're going to do it again in the fall, and that's what we should expect. I thought that was really interesting that I haven't really changed this at all since I created this image back in the summer and the early summer too. So, like what I'm hearing sort of social media and stuff is, one of the great things about the West and our freedom and all that is that they won't ban Bitcoin. They won't ban crypto. It's innovative. It's the future here in the West. I get a feeling that, and keep in mind, this works well for the banksters. Keep in mind, the banksters, they already have their proxies all set up here. I mean, they don't want to see the crypto market unwind. And, the politicians that were going to unwind the crypto market, they're not in power right now, ironically enough. I would actually say somebody like Donald Trump just being a total dick. U.S. dollars supreme. I will outlaw crypto. I could see that, kind of like what Winnie's doing now. But a guy like Biden's like he's a deal maker. He's like one of these compromisers. So what he's going to say is, look, I got my $3.7 trillion budget plan, which is going to earmark $100,000 to this chicken coop farmer in my home state of Delaware because I owe him a favor from a deal that he helped me with out a few years ago. Blah, 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 blah. That's the way politics works, right? He's not going to outlaw crypto, because if you outlaw crypto, then all of a sudden you've alienated a whole bunch of voters and you've alienated a whole bunch of potential deal makers. He'll say something like, you vote for my healthcare plan or my budget plan, then I'll endorse crypto. That kind of thing, right? He's one of those kind of guys. That's my take anyway. So, so let's see what you got here. I was hoping you can understand what's going on here and what we should expect for what you should expect for the future. I don't know whether you know this, whoever asked this question or not. Ian from Level 1. What you should expect from this next 3 or 4 years is something that we have not seen in a million years. So how the hell do you prepare for that? Is there a trading plan for trading pandemics? I'm not quite sure. The irony of it all is I think you just wait for the politicians to balk. We've got debt ceiling debate coming up, so on the resolution of that, the right wing of the United States government is going to use that political event to try and bolster their side. But I think ultimately the U.S. has no choice. It has to raise its debt. I mean, the whole global economy will collapse if they don't. And then guys like Winnie and Vlad over there in Russia, they'll just run roughshod, and I don't think anybody wants that. So I think ultimately the U.S. will increase the debt ceiling, and of course that's going to lead to more sort of insane blow-off-top action. So what I would suggest is you just wait for those events, and it'll be obvious, man. When the market will be cranking down, and all of a sudden it'll just reverse violently right back up. I remember, shouldn't we debate whether we should mortgage our kids' future? Shut up! Right? You got to wait for that event. Once that event happens, a whole bunch of free money. Of course, everybody's freaked out, and they're all worried, and we end up doing what they call climbing the wall of worry. So, what you should expect for the future, I hate to say it. I mean, this is half the reason why we invested in Bitcoin to begin with, is you got to be well hedged. And unfortunately, the people that live on pensions, the people that are on Social Security, the people that are dependent on government handouts for their livelihood, it's going to be horrible. right? I mean, it got so bad in Germany, a wheelbarrow of money to buy a loaf of bread. I hope it doesn't get that bad here. I don't think it will. I think half of the reason why that happened was that the banksters wanted to really turn the screws on the German government, and they had them by the short and curlies, and there was war reparations that had to be paid. Yes, the French, and it was just a never-ending spiral that Germany just couldn't get out of. I don't know whether that's the situation here. It'll be interesting to see if the long end of the bond market does break. The U.S. Federal Reserve itself has said that they would like to let the long end of the yield curve start floating on its own. But if that bond market starts to break in earnest and long-term interest rates start to go up, remember I was saying there just a few minutes ago that the bonds, look at it's interesting, right? Look at the risk-off assets. They're all getting their asses kicked. I mean, gold was slightly up on Friday, but even so, still trending down. And, the Fed has been telling us that we should expect, just monstrously strong economic activity into the end of the year. I think we're going to go into like a melt up phase. But I think we got to get by this U.S. debt ceiling issue. And I think the right wing of the U.S. government is going to use this as some sort of political tool to try and score points with their sort of voter base. So don't be surprised. Also, too, as I had said there earlier, I do believe there's a bit of China FUD going around the market right now face it, guys. I hope you guys are learning this. Great analogy of totalitarian governments. This is why you don't ever want one political body in charge of any government. What Winnie can do in China right now. I mean, if Winnie wants to shit on your head has just been shat on. And actually, there'll be 20 different minions that will all come on and be more than happy to add their shat too. It's awful. So, we always used to say, remember, a 30 years broker, I've been playing this game a long time. We often used to say that the best environment is a nice split government. So nobody can drop the hammer and pass like horrible, legislation that does things like sets up concentration camps and shit. So if anything, I'm really happy that my country, Canada, we just had an election, and basically the party that was in power had a minority. So, and that basically just was replicated. So nobody can really run roughshod over the populace, which I think is a good thing. You don't want too powerful governments, because then you get what like Winnie does, and it's just a nightmare. Hitler, same thing. Stalin, same thing, right? Totalitarian dictatorships are not good. Anyway, hopefully us in the West are finally coming to realize how bad this could be for... Interesting how the politics, though, they're playing. Right after this Canadian election, the Americans went and actually settled up their beef with the Huawei executive here. So Canada was able to release the Huawei executive here. And theoretically, the two Michaels are on their way back home. I think they are home, thank goodness. But it's fascinating because, like guys like me going, fuck you, China, two Michaels. I think that actually started to reverberate through the society. And people are like, we don't want to do business with China anymore. We don't want any more of that. And I think China had a major PR problem on their hands. So if anything, we might have seen a really interesting political gambit there right after elections, which often does happen. Anyway, I don't know whether I answered this question, but holy moly. I mean... I made reference that this hasn't happened in once in a million years. I'm talking about the celestial events because, frankly speaking, I think it's the celestial events that actually drive everything, not human behavior at all. So Jupiter, Saturn cross, that happens about once every 40 years. We got to get through that. Is it worth even fighting that? I don't think it is. You just got to get through this. And like I said, Just be well diversified. Own a little bit of everything. Don't trust anybody other than yourself. I mean, that's the worst part about it. You gotta educate yourself. You gotta look. You gotta take ownership of your financial future, and don't just blindly trust anybody with your money. And especially in this world, because even like public institutions that you think are supposed to be working on your behalf are actually lying to you. You find out after the fact. That's very, very disappointing. So, the printing money phase is just before the War of Revolutions. Yeah, I mean, what I would say to that is, it's a question of who is in control. I think it's actually, this pandemic. Like Klaus says, don't let a good crisis go to waste. One of the hallmarks of this, once in a million year celestial event window is this actually is supposed to be a consolidation of power celestial window event kind of thing. And I gotta say, man, it is perfect. The people like the Bill Gateses, the Zuckerberg, well, not so much. I don't know about Zuckerberg. I think he's too young. But Bill Gates is definitely. Bezos is probably to a certain degree. Buffett's. I mean, what I find fascinating is people, call them the banksters and hate the banks and stuff. And yet Warren Buffett probably owns like a huge chunk of the U.S. banking system. Yeah, nobody busts his ass. And yet he's the one setting policy because he's so fucking wealthy. But anyway. Ooh, I like that. Really? Somebody says that Bill Gates has a connection to Jeffrey Epstein? That would be great, man. If we found out that he dipped his wick in some underage poontang, that would be awesome. Down he goes. Now, if it's one thing you are not allowed to get away with in our Western society, and it doesn't matter how much money you are not allowed to tinkle with the underage kids. Not allowed to do it. It's incredible. Anyway, moving on. So just to speaking to this point, the question really becomes, it's the printing money phase, that's the banker's tax, and the question ultimately is there a check to this robbery? Because it is just basically blatant robbery. It's a crime. 2008, we watched all the banksters get lined up in front of the Congress, and nothing came of it. They should, a good portion of those men, including our buddy Joey Diamond, he was there, he should be in jail. A lot of the Goldman Sachs executives, they should be in jail. They committed fraud. And what's worse is they are supposed to have a fiduciary responsibility to look after their clients. Like that's the whole, Canadian. I remember I was a fellow of the Canadian Securities Institute, which is like an ethics professional designation. I was like Mr. Ethics, right? And the good part about it is hopefully you people that watch these YouTube things, you can see the ethics in me. I don't fucking shill you anything. I swear like a sailor, but that who cares? That has nothing to do with ethics. But I don't shill you. I don't, fill you with hopium and blow smoke up your ass. Because, frankly speaking, that's horribly unethical. Because I've seen so many people's hearts are totally broken from all this. So, what do you do? What often happens in this scenario is there's people like, I could very easily see a guy like Donald Trump come right back in 3 or 4 years. If he is not convicted, I think he is incredibly quiet right now because he is under the gun big time right now. His businesses are like borderline illegal. And I think his lawyers are fighting for his life right now. And the good part about it is you spend enough money on lawyers, they can get you out almost anything. Right? If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. If he can withstand the sort of onslaught here over the next year or two and be able, kind of like Napoleon, and be able to rise from the ashes, I could very easily see him just walk right into office the next election. All he's got to do is say, look, I told you so. You wanted, Joe. This is what you got. Just more of the same bullshit. And then we get into, but the only problem with that is you never know exactly what Mr. Trump's motivations are. Who's he working for? I don't think he's working for Joe Sixpack. He could start a war and a civil war if it served his purposes, but I don't think it's like, hey, I'm going to war for the American people to fight the banker. I think it's going to be something completely different, but who knows? That's just Brian talking out his ass. But huge topic. I mean, 100 years ago, it was the rise of communism and the international socialism. And I think the big debate at that point was Germany going to fall to the communists? Russia fell, and next on the hit list, especially after the chaos of World War I, was basically the communists were coming westward. So powers that be conveniently injected Mr. Hitler into the equation in Germany to try and stop that onslaught. And unfortunately, Mr. Hitler, after a while, turned on the banksters. And I think that's the number one reason why the West wouldn't stop fighting with Hitler, was because he wasn't supposed to do what he did. Crazy world history. You can never... Anyway. So, could we have to go through a period like that in Western society? It wouldn't surprise me. If anything, what really bothers me in Western society is it's been a very long time since we've had to live through some serious pain, which really sucks, because all these damn things, they all move in circles. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. I can't really give you a definitive answer. If anything, just hang around the site. We at least look at the equation with open eyes, just call a spade, and, like that efficient frontier. The best way you can possibly help yourself through this kind of event is just simply be diversified. Don't own all of your assets in D-marks. That's just asking for trouble. Actually, then they were the mark. Have a few US dollars, have some euros, have some Canadian dollars, have some Aussie dollars, have some Bitcoin, have some stock, have some real estate, just be diversified. Spread the jelly out. All right. Well, hopefully that helps. Once we have sold half on a double with a crypto, do we continue to do that if it is going parabolic? Thanks, Kathy. Really, Kathy? It's up to you. Actually, you know what? I'm going to fill my coffee up. I'll be right back. Somebody inject some background music. Man, this place is empty. Hello. All right, sorry about that. I thought it was interesting a while ago. I don't know where the hell I'd have it though, but maybe it's on the Twitter feed. Where is the Twitter thing? Is that this page? Maybe I can find it in here. But I had I did have an interesting chart on Litecoin and Charlie. So let's see if I can find that. And we will go LTC. Let's see what comes up. Oh, maybe I should do dollars. LTC. Oops, that's not going to work. Oh, that didn't work. CR Investor LTC. That looks right. Let's do. Gosh, so frustrating using this stupid platform. It's terrible. I know it's there. I just don't know how the fuck to get it. You gonna work? All right. Yeah. Oh, maybe that's what you have to do. All right, there we go. Yeah. So, Kathy, this image probably speaks to you. This is why I wanted to find this. Hope you're around, Kathy, and you can deal with my swearing. But this is an image of 3 different market participants. There's Joe Trader Dude, there's Investor Dude, and there's Moon Boys. It's not really like there is a right or wrong. I think it's a good idea to get yourself into that risk-free trade as fast as possible. So actually, ironically enough, all 3 of these participants, I do like the idea that if your trade doubles in value on you, for heaven's sakes, take some profit. But what you do afterward is really up to you. I mean, you want to be a very, this guy here looking for this 669 and nice little liquidity stop run against these highs and a mountain man tag of this particular range. He's just in and out, zipping in and out. Boom, boom, boom. Look at him go. He's trading up a storm. And maybe he blows the whole damn thing out here at 4669 off of this range and on to the next trade. Man, next he's trading soybeans. Who knows? There's also like the investors who like the idea of just basically buying against the bottom range. And I think I've told you guys before, 50% rule, this is one of the first technical tools I ever learned. Everybody do it. WD Gann. It is the easiest sort of law of price action, if you will. Markets often retrace 50% of their previous move. Big down move, odds are probably going to bounce back up to this point at some point. So, investors, very slow, patient. This is a weekly price chart, not really in any hurry whatsoever. If I can buy down here and risk against these lows and hit that 50% rule, you can see it looks like about 4 or 5 to 1 risk reward. Not bad at all. Even these guys, I would even suggest that if the asset did double, and that's sort of like halfway here, I think it's a good idea to take some money off the table. But then maybe you look to sell the rest of it at the 50% rule. It's up to you. Then there's the Moon Boys. Moon Boys? Remember, Moon Boys, they're the ones that get paid the most. They're the ones going to be driving the Lambos. They're the ones that are going to be like doing the silly YouTube videos. This is the most exciting thing since yesterday. Josh, you want to grab that soundbite? Even got a little bit of the jiggle going there. It isn't like there's a right or wrong way to do this. What's most important is what works for you and your personal anxiety level. There's no guarantee we're doing a Moon Boy shot here. And so as a result, the statistical odds of the Moon Boy shot hitting, well, it's probably pretty low. But Moon Boy, he's going to get paid a hell of a lot of money for the relatively low probability of that level getting hit. But if that level gets hit, oh, Lambos. But it's not really like, it's like, yeah, that's who I'm talking about, Warner. that's who we have a lot of fun making fun of those guys. W's don't matter. Indicators don't matter. Just FOMO in. Guaranteed to make money. Oh, goodness. It never ends well. All right, so Cheryl likes the thumbnails. Julian's like, oh man, if we could just get on top of those damn thumbnails, we'd be so good. Everybody hates my thumbnails. It sucks. I love my little broiler chickens logos, but nobody likes that shit. Oh well. All right, so I don't know whether you're around, Kathy. I think Kathy. It's not really like there's a right or wrong. I mean, is there best practices? I think so. Like I said, if you can, you sell half on a double, get your original money back in your hands, you can't get hurt by the rest of the trade. Now, what I like to do is I like to sell and then rebuy on the pullbacks. So, and what I've found, and it's a bit crazy, but it's, keep in mind, I've been doing this forever. But what I've found is that really great money, I think Luna is actually not a bad example. Got it over here somewhere. Yeah. So what I've found is that around these Feigenbaum constants, there's quite a bit of battle. And you kind of notice, right? If I buy here, sell half on a double, oh, gee whiz. That's 2, right? What a coincidence. Well, there's a bit of a battle around there. And then, what's a double of 2? Well, a double of 2 is 4. Okay, well, that makes sense. What's a double of 4? Well, that's 8, right? So in this particular case, you can see we got up into 8, and gee whiz, we've been battling around. What often happens, and this is freaky, I don't know whether this is the best example. Well, actually, this one's probably better. Again, there's a range, breakout 2. So if I bought here, double, right? And then 4x, well, and it turns out that was the top. So that was a double of a double. In fact, actually, there was one that I just, well, actually, no, it doesn't matter. Point here, I would say, is what I've seen happen quite often, and you can actually see it really well here, is we went up like 2 points. So this is the double level, sell half on a double. Then up to 4, so sell half on a double of a double. So that's like 4x. And then notice, look at that, we came right back to the 2.1, 2.618 in this case. Then up, and then back down, and actually had to come all the way back down to reload zones. But what I actually find happens a lot is the market will actually play ping pong within these ranges. And you may sometimes get like that, and then back down. So what I like to do is reload, right? And this wasn't a reload, this was an initial load, but that's kind of, you see, market goes zooming up, can't chase that, let it pull back, reload. In this case, it was the first load for me. And then get ready for the next run. So what that means is that I need to be able to, let's see, how do we say this? Almost mechanicalize the trade, where I don't want to overthink. If I want to, especially if I'm looking at like hundreds of assets. Keep in mind that funny little old lady account that I had on Trex. I mean, geez, I got up to about 200 or 300 altcoins at one point in that last crazy cycle. They've culled it down now. I think there's only about 100 or so of those left that survived. But nonetheless, to be able to manage such a massive list, just want to keep it as simple as possible. Not really have discretion of buying or selling. So the plan to keep it as simple as possible is every time something doubles, out goes half. And it just becomes incredibly mechanical. Because quite often I see, and this is a good example, this would have been 1 double, 2 doubles, and then that was it. Then we come back to the reload zone. You hear Brian say, I'm reloading against 78.6. We get ready for the next cycle, and lo and behold, this one is 1, 2, 3, right? And now we're like chopping around here. So you get 3 doubles off. Oh, wow, man, I'm the man. And you can see exactly where I want to start buying this back. And, I kind of said before, thinking about reloading, what often happens with me is like selling half on a double, totally mechanical, not thinking, no discretion whatsoever. It's just a rule in the trading plan. Just do it. And then the damn thing comes back, and lo and behold, look at this green box. And, the darn thing does something like that. And then we go, well, we're just going to have to reload, ironically enough, where we actually were selling a while ago. I see that happen a lot too. So the way that I approach this is I'm a nut. Ironically enough, for all you beginners to the program, you don't want to go and buy 200-300 cryptocurrencies. That's just Brian. He's a crazy goofball. I mean, you want to have some fun at this, and you don't give a shit, and you want to make money? Okay, fine. Follow along my lead. It's an easy way to make money, but it's not normal. I'm a weirdo. What usually people do is they, maybe pick 4 or 5 ideas that you like. And if you have a risk portfolio, then the 4 or 5 names, whether maybe a couple of them are stocks, maybe a couple of them are cryptocurrencies, you're just investing in those names in your risk portfolio. I highly encourage you, if you can sell half on a double, do so. I would also suggest, great way to make a lot of money, and this is sort of what I've been suggesting there a moment ago, is once you get that first double off, get your original money back in your hands and think of the free coins or free stock or whatever it is as forget about it. Just throw it on the pile. Maybe even move it to a completely different account. And you just never sell anymore. You're just going to buy and hold. The great part about that is you could just sit on those assets and you never have to pay tax on that. The asset just can keep going up and up and up. Can you imagine if you bought Microsoft stock in the 1970s at $2 or $3 a share, or even Amazon at $10 a share back in 2003, 2004, and then you sold half on a double, got your original money back, and just took the stock and just put it into some retirement account and forgot about it. Would that have been a half decent move? I think so. But it's really all up to you and your plan. What type of investor are you? What kind of risk do you like taking? Remember I showed you that the Litecoin, these trader dudes, they probably take 100% profit on that move up there, and they're gone. On to the next trade. It's not really it's a right or wrong. It's what works best for you as an individual. So I hope I answered that question. I don't know whether I did or not. Anyway, Kathy, if you could let me know. What do you got here? Well, there's a chart. Typical big cycle behind empire rises and declines. Oh, God. All right. New world order, prosperity, debt bubble, big wealth gap, debt burst, printing money and credit, revolutions and wars, debt and political restructuring, new world order. Could be. The only problem I would say here is Chinese currency is still pegged to the US dollar. You forgot something here. This thing needs to be out on its own where people in the public go, yeah, you know what? I'm going to buy Chinese, whatever the fuck they're called. I mean, seriously, folks. Serious. Come on. Serious. Let's be serious here. This is what pisses me off about this conversation is people forget. If somebody was holding a gun to anybody's head and said, do you trust Winnie with your money? Oh, you got $1 million. You worked your fucking ass off to try and save. Keep in mind, it might take you a lifetime to save up that $1 million. You're just going to hand it to Winnie and say, okay, Winnie, I'm just going to trust you. What's going to happen? Do you see what's going on in China right now? That's exactly what's going to happen. What happens if you happen to be Muslim and you have that $1 million and you gave it to Winnie to look after? He might just say, well, thank you very much for the contribution to the Communist Party. You have just, bought yourself another 5 years of freedom. We won't send you off to the concentration camp just yet. So I don't buy this bullshit. I just do not buy this. Now, like the end of the First World War, the United States of America, under the guise of Constitution, they came and saved the West, beat Germany. At that time, Great Britain was on, and the British Empire was on decline. So the question ultimately was, where do you put your money? Who do you trust? People, to all intents and purposes, trusted the United States of America and their democratic, constitutional based system. So that's why I think you could have put like Britain here, USA here, or I guess the other way around, USA here, Britain here. But I don't think you can do this with China right now. And I've heard even a number of both U.S. politicians and like Fed governors and stuff say, you can't trust China. You can't put your money there. What are you, on drugs? So, that's the reality of this. Yeah, I mean, Winnie might just actually poo all over my head. I could very easily see that. I've talked to you guys before. I think that his snipers sit up in the buildings that they're constructing across the street here. The only problem is, I mean, I don't know. Like when I was a stockbroker, I used to have clients that did business in China, and they said, if you ever buy anything that's made in China, you have to throw out a third of it because it's useless. It's garbage. It's crap. Now, no offense, I don't think anything's changed in that regard. So, I don't fear the Chinese snipers because their rifles suck horse cocks. They'll probably kill the sniper before they kill me. Alright, moving on. I'm not quite sure what this image is in reference to. I guess this is to back up this kind of thinking here. I mean, no doubt about it. We're heading towards, in the Western society here, we're heading towards some sort of crisis here. It's coming. As I said to you before, my suggestion to you is just be very, very well diversified. Okay, number 3. In your 919 BCS, you used the term DeFi a few times. I attempted to look it up. Were you referring to DeFi, decentralized finance? I'm a rookie. Just trying to stay with you. Thank you. LOL. Or level 1. Ricky Bobby. DeFi, if I use that term, I'm talking about decentralized finance. I'm talking about the Aves. I'm talking about the polka dots. I'm talking about the Kusamas, the Lunas, everything that's been hot here the past 6-8 months in crypto. So I don't know whether Ricky Bobby you're here, but if you want further conversation about that, we can always show you a bunch of names that were sort of quote unquote DeFi on our list that we sort of follow. And it's interesting because I'm not really that much of an expert in this stuff, and I'm not at all. Let's make that clear. I'm not an expert in this stuff at all. But like Wi-Fi, the Kusama, I think linked to a certain degree is DeFi because, well, no, I'm just DOT, of course, I think was a big one. DeFi perp index, obviously, clearly that's something that's a DeFi. So that's all this kind of stuff. And actually, this is probably a good index to follow for that kind of conversation. Interesting how I drew that a while ago. Eh? So we'll see when that happens. And what I noticed is that a lot of stories that are trying to sort of gain traction here, they're coming out with their DeFi sort of spins on their ideas. So like I think if I'm not mistaken, a name that I've always loved is Sys. And if I understand correctly, they're trying to do their own sort of DeFi spin. And I, of course, loved Ubiq. Ubiq is like an Ethereum clone. Look at that. See, interestingly enough, I would make the argument that Ubiq has actually just come down into a buying window there. Look at that. I mean, it's just sitting there. Reload zones within reload zones. You know how much Brian loves that shit. So, yeah, to answer your question, DeFi is that DeFi, decentralized finance. Also, in your 919 BCS, you asked, who buys down markets and sells ups? You said institutions. You pointed out an IFP institution fingerprints you saw on a chart. You also mentioned teaching us like institutions. Could you elaborate a little bit more on the institution topic? With my rookie mindset, it never would have occurred to me to emulate institutions. Hearing from you that they buy down, sell up markets makes perfect sense to me, though. There you go. Cool. So we get into this topic when we get into the candy store. Right now, you need to be concentrating on eating your vegetables. You'll understand this. Basically, this is a concept that we sort of teach while we teach you really cool trade location tool, Fibonacci retracements, and how these institutional levels often line up really nicely with these fib levels that we paint. So it's a great sort of juxtaposition. You know, do the institutions buy the fib levels, or do the markets pivot? And then people see the fib levels, the fact that they pivoted off of those specific levels, buying against lows, 78.6 retracements, 88.6 retracements, etc. Is it how do I say this? Is it the dog that wags the tail, or is it the tail that wags the dog? Do prices turn because the institutions buy, or do institutions buy because they come into those fib levels? That's a tough one. And I don't know what the answer is, to be honest with you. I think it's a combination of both. So my simple answer to you here is wait till has anybody taken the level 1 course here? What week do we do fibs on? I think it's week 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's 5 or 6, somewhere in there. Oh, thank you, Werner. So you're kind of jumping ahead. If I did make a reference to this, once we get to that topic, you're going to understand completely what I'm talking about here. It's just, I don't want, you got so much to concentrate on right now. Don't worry about this kind of stuff right now. Concentrate on understanding the role of the different assets. Understand things like sentiment indicators. That's what you really needed to concentrate on this week. Understand sort of the, to all intents and purposes, that Money Masters video is actually a really good watch this week as you try and sort of see the strategic picture. Understand the demographics and the whole baby boomer millennial generation shift. Those are really huge monster concepts. Now, we don't need to be too concentrated on this right at the moment. And of course, too, you're supposed to be working on building your trading plan. It's interesting how I don't even see any questions about trading plan. Okay, let's see how we're doing here. Number 5, Brian. Listening to your lecture on capital markets and watching the deeper dive of bonds in the library, my question to you, are we currently in the optimal hunting for discounted bonds period? If so, could you elaborate on the risks associated with it? What you can see from a 30,000-foot view. This also feels like the only asset that is coupled to something like the dollar was to gold. Does that statement ring true at all? Interesting conversation. The problem, I think, here is that both the current U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen and the current Federal Reserve Governor Powell have both said that the current borrowing and, I guess you'd say, unfinanced spending, like deficits that are absolutely out of control right now. Hell, my leader in my country, he doesn't even want anybody to think about deficits. Deficits, no, we don't have to worry about that stuff. God. It just shows how completely out of touch with economics this guy is. So, my concern here is that the rubber has to hit the road here at some point. This just can't go on endlessly. I think that the Yellens and the Powells of the world understand these 40-year sort of interest rate cycles with regard to Jupiter-Saturn crosses. A la J.P. Morgan, millionaires don't respect astrology, but billionaires do. In like 1910, when billion was probably worth $1 trillion of today's dollars. So I'm worried that the market is designed to inflict as much pain on as many people as much of the time as possible. What is the market absolutely saturated in? And that means everybody owns it. Bonds. Debt. You know, I believe that the banksters, the way they want to get out of this situation is simply inflate the economy. And then that gets into the question that we had above, where the value of assets just collapse, prices just explode higher, hyperinflation. Then the old debt's not really a problem because the economy is like 10, 20 times the size it was. So, relatively speaking, the old debt issue is not a problem. That's what the banker's solution is. But anybody who's sitting in any assets, if you don't, you want to go to the grocery store and buy your groceries, you're going to be like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? So, there is a fundamental problem here. I think Klaus is kind of saying, hey, let's use COVID, let's use the pandemic as a nice, convenient sort of cover to keep the sort of revolutionaries apart. Go ahead and reflate the economy, do all that, and quote unquote hit the reset button. Now your loaf of bread costs $50. $50 is cheap. Just get used to it. Maybe they might even, through the end of all this, create some sort of central currency. I do believe that there is some sort of, U.S. Fed coin kind of coming down the pike. I don't know whether that's this cycle or not, though, to be honest with you. I have a feeling it's next cycle. But maybe that's the ultimate reset button that they hit. I don't know. But I have to, because of that Jupiter-Saturn cross, and because of what I perceive as sort of the long-term trend in interest rates, and that's sort of the inflation-deflation gauge, ironically enough, what we should do now is kind of go sideways, inflation-deflation-wise, for quite a while. That's this image here. What time is it? Oh, okay. I'm still okay. So, I think a lot of the inflation worry has been priced into the market. Then we went through a little bit of deflation here. Things calmed down. Nobody's talking about some runaway lumber prices anymore. Bitcoin's calmed down. But, is that a little W trying to come in here? I've also noticed, too, I'm hearing a lot of people talking about oil prices are firming up, which is a joke. $70, $80. I could see oil prices firming up like $30, $40 if this was the old economy, right? But because they've, blown up the money supply, now the floor is $70. What a great analogy. I mean, the oil's got no business being $70 fucking dollars a barrel, other than the fact that the money itself is worthless. So, my hunch is that we're going to be spending the next few years in this range. Where we're like, oh, hyperinflation. Oh, okay, calm down. Oh, hyperinflation. Oh, calm down. Oh, hyperinflation. Oh, calm down. prices will just continue to keep going up. It'll drive you crazy. They won't go down as we sort of work our way. Because what I'm hearing now is they're actually sort of getting the public ready for the second wave of the supply chain crisis. I watch YouTube videos and guys who are like building sheds out in the bush and stuff. They're like, man, you go to the stores and there's nothing on the shelves. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually go into that kind of environment. We're not done this shit by a long stretch, my friends. We're not done this shit by a long stretch. Maybe last century they were called the dirty 30s. Maybe these will be called the dirty 20s. Who knows? Anyway, with regard to interest, if I see that this is pointing up, and that's basically pointing in inflation's direction, can't justify being an investor in bonds. I can, and I do, like the idea of investing in stock. And equity. I think I showed this image, right? If I was going to be invested... Oh, where'd it go? Oh, look at that goddamn cotton. Oh, cotton. Trying to get in on the long side of cotton is like pulling teeth. This image here, right? I can't invest in this. I can't invest in this. There's no W's anywhere in sight. But notice what equity's doing. Equity W'd. It even had a beautiful Wyckoff check. There is my long-term demographic cycle pivot. 2000, in fact, it was supposed to be third quarter of 2017. So where's that? That would be right in here. So, the breakout of that level there. And equity is where it's at. I do not like bonds at all. And keep in mind, this is taking into account the dilution of the currency. If you look at these markets and just, stick your head in the sand, no, they're not diluting the currency. This damn thing looks like it's going straight up. So I'm worried that into the end of the year, I think you're going to have this thing go straight up because they said that the fourth quarter economic data is just going to be crazy, insanely bullish. It's going to, the Fed has said, we're done lowering interest rates. Free money days, those are over. We're going to start actually doing the taper. He said the only way they're not going to taper is if I think it's the October jobs report is an absolute train wreck. And frankly speaking, I don't think it's going to be a train wreck. So with all that said, I do not like the idea of a long-term bond market bull. If anything, I like the idea of a long-term bond market bear. Actually, I'd be the exact opposite of what you're thinking. Now, this is a totally different strategy, but a lot of guys that I know made great money buying bonds that are less than par and just holding on to them until maturity and expecting the bond issuer, whatever the corporation is, to pay back the principal because all bonds are floated at par or $100. So totally different. But I used to know guys, in fact, I can think of one guy in particular, that's all he did was his whole business was I buy a bond, maybe like a 2-year bond at like $90. I hold on to it into maturity and the company gives me $100 back. So I collect the coupon interest over that 2 years because maybe the coupon was like 3 or 4% or something. So at $90, that's like 6-7%. That's all the math around interest payments on bonds. I'm not going to go into that right now. But if you hold on to it until maturity, if you buy it at $90 and hold on to it and it matures at $100 and they give you $100 back, well, that's $10 of capital gain on top of that fantastic yield. And interestingly enough, as sort of a tie-in to the last question, to all intents and purposes, that's kind of the same thing as the DeFi space. When you go and buy a bond that's trading less than par, in essence, what you're doing is you're providing the market liquidity. The bond has a coupon, just like your POS coins, spit out coins, stakeholders, validate the network. I guess you could argue a big chunk of your interest payment is, coins issued. And And then, if the asset happens to rally, great. In the bonds case, remember the bond matures at 100. So for a lot of, and this is what's called playing the junk bond market. A lot of people will buy junk bonds in anticipation of them maturing at par and make great capital gains on that trade as well. So that's probably what I was referring to in the video. Completely different investment plan. Ideally, the best case scenario there is you actually pull up the chart of the bond and you see a big fat W happening at $90, which means that you're going to have to inject a little bit of timing into your purchase as well. Probably going to be buying corporate bonds, maybe like AAA, or maybe even like, I don't know, you could go, well, you could probably don't go below B, because if that's the case, then there is a chance that they'll default, and you don't want to see that happen. But you could probably do that. It'd be a bit more advanced strategy. I don't have a lot of people on the site who are super jazzed about doing bond investing, but if you want to work with me, if this kind of appeals to you, we can go find. You're gonna have to get like every brokerage house has an inventory of fixed income that they keep, and just ask for the prices. Then once you find one that's got a relatively good credit rating, it's trading below par, it's got a half decent coupon, maybe a year or two of life left. Then we'll go to things like Bloomberg, pull up the price chart. If we got W's working, hey, maybe we got a trade to consider. But that's very different than I'm buying my bonds so that the U.S. government can pay for my retirement and they're nice and safe and secure and I don't have to worry. Be careful there. And frankly speaking, until we get beyond this, oh my God, the sky's falling kind of scenario, the sickness and what the hell's going to happen to the U.S. dollar, and we get some sort of foundation put in our economy going into this new millennial generation, maybe just cool your jets on the aggressive strategies. I mean, I got a funny feeling, like the best time to invest is when the sky's falling. So I think I've said it a few times here today. When that guy's going, shouldn't we debate mortgaging our kids' future to save the market? And everybody goes, shut up, you're an idiot. If you hear about somebody dying because of the financial shit, that's always a catalyst. And I actually think somebody did die that particular March of 2020. I heard people saying that they would sacrifice their lives to save the markets. It's like, what? You got to be kidding me. So that's the kind of environment, you want to make, good investments and know that you're buying when they're crying. That's the kind of environment you really want to spend your money. I don't hear anything about that now. Yeah, hey, don't be that. Yeah, see, the Nortel CEO. We should be looking at all of these resource companies, oil companies, gold companies, lumber companies, all of these kind of companies that their assets have been really bid up. I hate to say it, even cryptocurrency assets, right? And just ask, what's the value of these things? Does anybody know offhand what's the current cost of production of a Bitcoin? Could Bitcoin's price be a little bit vulnerable here? If the inertia of this sort of, what happens if the U.S. Federal Reserve comes out and says, well, we're going to guarantee everything. You're going to have to buy your Fed coin. We're establishing a whole new world order, blah, 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 blah. Kind of like Roosevelt outlawing gold ownership, 1932. What happens then? But the interesting thing about that is that only will happen after the crash. So, Bitcoin's up top here. Be careful. So, anyway, I just heard somebody say about $9,000. Well, the interesting thing somebody just asked, is cash a good place to be? And remember what we just showed you. The interesting thing about this, it's an interesting debate, right? It goes back and forth. Could you make the argument, and this is what really bothers me about the bonds, is could you make the argument kind of like what that gentleman's saying is, you buy low, sell high? I think you could, but I think you got to wait for some more technical information that this thing is actually bottomed. Same thing with cash here, bud. Now, the problem with cash is that we have to eat. We have to pay rent. And, you have to pay your taxes. Right? And ironically enough, that's really what the definition of money really is, everybody. Get used to it. King Henry I, 1,000 years ago, basically said, these sticks that I'm going to break off of a tree, they are now our cash. Why? Because this is the only way I'm going to let you pay taxes. And you better pay taxes or I'm going to kill you. And keep in mind, governments, to all intents and purposes, you don't want to pay tax. Look at Mr. McAfee. What happened to him? So ironically enough, that's actually the definition of money. So if the government comes along and says, hey, you can pay your taxes in Bitcoins, well, ironically enough, Bitcoin now becomes legal tender. Boom, just like that. The El Salvador guy. Maybe we should all move to El Salvador. We could just live on our Bitcoins. We don't use US dollars anymore. All of this becomes completely irrelevant. You just value everything in Bitcoin. It's definitely possible. But I would definitely say that cash, what direction is that pointing? Is that a W yet? Has that thing W'd? I don't think so. So I don't see, unfortunately, I just don't see. We're caught in this terrible conundrum, right? And this, you can imagine what somebody in Germany in 1922 was going through. Same thing. What do? Gotta eat. Is it going to take a wheelbarrow of these stupid paper pieces of shit to actually buy that loaf of bread? It might. This is not a... Hey, I think I told you by the end of this cycle, you guys are all going to just hate people like me. Because I'm just going to keep telling you. It's just, oh, God, this is getting worse, man. It's just... If anything, I'm almost pleased that we've kind of gotten rid of the bar stool guys. And, German cryptocurrency enthusiasts, I think, were taught a lesson there about unbridled enthusiasm and how dangerous that is. I've said it to you at least 2 or 3 times today. I'm going to say it again. The only way you get through this kind of shit is you have to be insanely diversified. Because the irony of it all is if the US dollar goes down, something else goes up. Right? It's a zero-sum game. So, yeah, exactly right, Andre. And Andre, tell me, what has to happen for Mr. Barstool guy to get all fucking orgy-tastic again? The answer is, I'm going to tell you because I got to move on here. We got to get that little politician in the U.S. Senate to go, shouldn't we debate mortgaging our kids' future here? Shut up! Right, we got to get to that phase. As soon as we get to that phase, then Mr. Barstool guy's got a floor. But who knows what kind of pain we have to go through to get to that phase. Now, I don't know. Maybe Monday morning? Tomorrow, right? I'm going to be in the middle of moving. Maybe the floor falls out of the market and all of a sudden that shit starts up again. And of course, we've got this big U.S. debt ceiling debate, right? Maybe that knocks the market down. As soon as we get that guy going, shut up. And then okay, well, Barstool guys will be coming along pretty shortly. So, I don't know. Sure hope that helps. I don't know whether it does or not. Yeah, okay, so, just simply put, John, that when I was talking to you in the video about guys buying bonds below par and then selling them at par, that is a very specific bond market strategy. If you are interested in that, we can talk more, and I do like the fact there's not very many people in the time that I've been at TRI that are even the slightest bit interested in bonds. But if you are interested, I'll have more conversations with you on that. It's a fun part of the business because, like I said, theoretically, the bonds mature at par, so if you buy them at 90, that's like a no-brainer trade. And I remember this one guy who used to sell this education program on how to do this. When he would explain this to the crowd, they would all fucking go apeshit. They'd be like, geez, this is the easiest money to be made. Until they have a company default. And then, uh-oh. Oh, Werner says, hey, I've had my... Maybe that's my future, is I got to start building bond trading strategies for you guys. You're all going to become Eurodollar experts. Oh, wonderful. Okay, last question. Then I'm going to go get pretty for the boy. And I'm going to head off into autism land for a few hours. So, as we leave fear and head into greed, do you see the current real estate market prices are a reflection of the devalued dollar? Absolutely. It seems like greed, Yellen, in our localized market. Where is real estate in the cycle? Thank you, Rocky Bobby. The problem here, of course, is what country are you in? If you are in a commodity supplying country, Australia, Canada, Russia, South Africa, these are theoretically think of them as sort of like the shopping mall for the developed countries that are industrialized, that have a lot of manufacturing. So Australia provides a lot of raw materials for like Japan, right? And their manufacturing, and Korea's. Now China on the stage. You can think Russia supplies a lot of the commodities to the European countries. Germany, France, all the Eastern European nations, Hungary, Poland. The United States of America gets a lot of its commodities from Canada. In the fear part of the cycle, those commodity or hard asset currencies and countries, they get a lot of business. Currencies get bid up. Unfortunately, these things always get pushed to ridiculous extremes. Like we had with Nortel Networks and dot-com boom. That was the situation of a tech stock in Canada. Canada was not even supposed to be rallying then. Nortel was a total anomaly. And the only reason why they happened was Nortel was part of Ma Bell, and when they broke up Ma Bell, it was this telephone company, and it was just sitting there going, okay, now what the hell do I do? They just made telephones. And they went and bought a company called Bay Networks. It was out of San Francisco, obviously. So instantly, Nortel became Nortel Networks and got in on the whole fiber optic build-out of the internet and all that networking insanity. So Canada did have a proxy in that space, but it's an interesting tell. At the top of the dot-com bull, that one company actually represented like 35% of the entire Canadian equity market. Why? Because everything else in Canada was a commodity, and commodities, they were just giving this shit away. They didn't, there was a big scandal in the gold market in 1998, and I remember after that scandal, it was a company called Briex. You could not give away a gold stock. You couldn't give that away. You literally, I remember there was tons of companies that just the stocks were worthless. We're at the exact opposite end of that cycle. All the commodity assets, Bitcoin, you guys love your Bitcoin so much. They're all up at the very top of the cycle, top of the market. Which is, try to convince, you go on social media right now, and actually, I dare you, if somebody wants a fun project, go onto social media right now and say, Bitcoin is overvalued. It's even right now, it's about trading at about 400 to 500% premium of what you should be investing in Bitcoins. And if you buy Bitcoins here, you are walking into a trap. Let's see what happens. Now, you got to understand, as a wise investor, that information alone is stunningly valuable. But it's the same thing as Mr. Nortel, right? Werner, you said you liked the story of Mr. Nortel in the Level 1 program. All you Level 1ers, I don't think you've hit that yet. The current Level 1ers, you're going to hit that next week when you guys get into fundamental analysis. So, point of the matter there was he was actually publicly humiliated by this Princeton University professor on CNBC, national television. Why? Because he said he wanted to sell and get out at the top. And everybody went, "What are you, crazy?" So in a weird sort of way, kind of like selling and getting out of crypto right now is a lot, very, very similar. The problem with stocks, though, is that technically stocks are earnings engines. And if you do not have any earnings, your stock could technically be worthless, which is very, very different than something like a Bitcoin. Like a Bitcoin falls into a commodity category. So as a result, we take everything back to cost of production. Some commodities will trade below cost of production for a very long period of time, though. So please be aware of that. It's not a guarantee that the commodity will base at cost of production, but that's usually what happens. In fact, usually what happens is price bottoms a little bit above that cost of production level because the people that are in the business, they want to turn a profit. And frankly speaking, I don't see any reason why that won't happen with Bitcoin. So just keep a close eye on cost of production and you'll do pretty fine. It'll tell you basically where to buy Bitcoins. And oh, by the way, the best time to buy Bitcoins is about 6 months or so ahead of its halving event. So can anybody tell me when is the next halving event for crypto and Bitcoin? And, that same Nortel, so please answer that question and you'll have a really, really good idea. And everybody watching this stream will see what the answer to that is and know exactly when we should be seriously thinking about investing in Bitcoins. We're nowhere near that right now, folks. Sorry. But that's just the way that it is. Are you going to get some sort of speculative blow off top here to 100, 200,000? Because the Republicans in the U.S. Congress stall the debt ceiling debate and the whole market goes into crisis. That could happen, sure. But you want to buy value? You want to... if Bitcoin's 100 G's, why don't we just fucking go out and buy a whole bunch of video cards and just start mining like fucking crazy? That would be the smart thing to do, wouldn't it? Anyway, point of the matter here is... with regard to commodities, it's a good idea if you're going to invest in them, then try and hunt that cost of production. What scares me about crypto is this whole idea of tokens. Because tokens, I don't even know if you can give them a value. They're technically worthless. And I think that's half the reason why a lot of those projects collapsed after 2017, 2018, because there really wasn't any value to any of them. It was all sort of pie in the sky. Well, we might do this. Well, we're planning on doing this. But at the end of the day, the token itself was worthless, so as a result, the price just went back down to nothing. And I'm worried that after this sort of euphoria mania that's supposed to happen here into the end of the year, once that's done... Then we head into 2022, 2023. Think of the Benner cycle. Think of the fact that the Fed is saying that they are curtailing their bond purchasing program. The economic data is going to be so strong, you might actually find that the Fed is raising interest rates. And in that kind of environment, go back and look. What did the equity market, what do risk markets do while the Fed is raising interest rates? It's a little dangerous time to be a serious investor. So, I like the idea that there are certain assets that have floor values to them in the crypto space. You guys, of course, are way more smarter at this than figuring out value in the crypto space than I am. We have a lot of really, really smart people on the site that can do a great job at that. It might be even a really fun project for us to sort of put a spreadsheet together, kind of like what we do with the Wednesday show, that Crypto Top 100. What is the actual value of each and every one of these tokens and cryptocurrencies? Is it POW, where you can definitely figure out exactly what the actual value of each coin is? Or is it POS, where it becomes very, very subjective? It's a tough one. I do like the idea that DeFi, to a certain degree, has incentivized a lot of people to stake their coins, and they think they're going to earn a really fat interest rate off of that staking. I'm going to be really curious to see whether this cycle plays out the same way that like ADA played out last cycle. Because I remember distinctly, and I've told you guys this before, 2017, 2018, I had one, I'd like to consider him a friend. He was a super sweet guy. David out of Switzerland. He had all of these master nodes, and just a ton of them all lined up. And theoretically getting paid, an APR. Then the price of these things just absolutely falls through the floor. Did he just give up and walk away, or was he able to hang in and ride out the bear market? I don't know. Are you going to be able to do that? That's a double I don't know. It's a little too iffy for a guy like me to just say blindly, yes, I will be able to handle it. Because frankly speaking, you know me, I don't like to take a lot of risk. I like to play with free assets and then throw the original capital back on the pile. So, I would rather, and, I went through the last cycle where, at the very top of the cycle, the silly little account I built up was worth, 6, 7, 800,000 US. And by the time the floor was done and all the selling and crying was over, the account was back down to, I don't know, maybe about 150, 200,000. Can you handle that kind of volatility? Me, I didn't give a shit. I didn't buy or sell anything. In fact, as soon as it got down to the bottom, started buying all the shit back. But I don't know whether you can handle that or not. Well, that's up for you. So, the way I look at real estate nowadays, I actually think that the powers that be, the banksters, have designed it so that real estate stock is actually the collateral that's keeping everything together here. So, if real estate prices are inflated and people have mortgages with the banks, then I don't think the banks are highly incentivized to sort of break that model. And what I've noticed here, and I think this is really interesting, is that the silent generation is still a very big portion of the population, and they are old as fuck. And they're still here. They're not going anywhere. Then we got the baby boomers. They're here. They're now fully into retirement. They're going to be draining the system. They theoretically are asset rich, so the system will just keep sucking their assets out of them. Now we have the millennial and Generation X, screw them. Millennials are now part of the equation, and they're now starting, like I see a lot of baby Chinese kids around Vancouver here. Don't see too many baby white kids, which is a very interesting tell. Tons and tons of, and I don't even know if it's Chinese. Let's just call them Asian-based babies. Tons, everywhere I look. So I can understand this argument that the housing stock is we're running out of supply. We just don't have enough supply. Because the silent generation, they all want to live in their homes and they're not selling their homes. The baby boomers all want to live in their homes. They don't want to live with their parents. They don't want their kids living with them. The millennials now, they all are starting up their families. They want homes. Everybody's long housing. And I think that the powers that be have used that equity in the housing market to prop up the whole. Well, that's what I'm saying. So, Andre, I think it's like a quiz. So, Andre says, well, and the government's limiting supply. It's a delicate act that they're using to use the housing stock as collateral to justify this money system. Complicated as hell. It baffles me, but I was thinking about this the other day. In Japan, for example, they're about 10, 20 years demographically ahead of us in the West. And they're finding that literally people are dying in their houses. People are not moving out of their houses when they get really old. They're just dying in them. So what that means is that that's probably what our future is. Is that, over the next 10, 20 years, the silent generation, they're not going to move out of their houses. They're just going to slowly die in them. So, very, very complicated situation. And, really what this harkens back to, of course, is, the politicians have made a ton of promises to the government or to the population to get elected that they could never keep. The banksters, of course, more debt means they have more control over you. So the banksters are like, yeah, go ahead. Go into all the debt you want. Then we own you. Like the Rothschilds guys. I don't give a shit who's in control of the country. It doesn't matter to me. If I control the money system, it doesn't matter left, right, up, center, black, white, yellow, brown. It doesn't make a rat's ass of difference. And I think that's exactly what's going on in my country right now. You can really, really see it. They're literally importing a whole generation of people here into this country that are not Canadians. They don't understand what the banksters have done. They're coming to Canada. They're thinking that these inflated prices are normal. This is just the way that it goes. But actually... And they're beautiful pawns. Like, I can understand why the banksters really like this immigration story. It works perfectly for them. Generation after generation after generation. So, okay, can you please share the TV asset class perf? Which one's that? I did post this in a level 1 classroom. This chart right here. I did post that, and actually Joshua even pinned it too. So I'm not quite sure what chart you're asking for. The borrower is slave to the lender. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anything, it's such a great analogy of our society that. And I was thinking about this the other day. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I think the only time we ever heard Jesus Christ get angry, and actually they actually wrote stories of him actually being violent, was in his relation with the banksters or the money changers. Same thing. I mean, that's got to be telling unto itself, doesn't it? So, what do we do as a species? Well, also, too, there's stories that he actually created a whip, and he actually was whipping them. It was just great. But the point here, I mean, geez, what a perfect tell. If there isn't, actually, and you watch the Money Masters video, I don't know whether you guys are aware, it's probably worth reiterating that, the Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz was all about the banking system. I don't know whether you guys even know that. I find that fascinating. And of course, the powers that be totally turned the story around and you know, ironically enough, made the whole thing moot. So, I mean, what do you do? I am inspired by your generation's non-acceptance of this fraud. But frankly speaking, I don't know whether it's really worth your life or your livelihood to fight the fight. They're just too big, they're too dominant, and they're just too much of assholes. They will kill you. And that's the worst part about it. You know, like Lincoln. They took a shot at Old Hickory down in the States. Some argue McKinley. I think they whacked him. He was getting awfully close to cracking down on the banksters. These people are murderers. Sad. And they just have no conscience. They don't give a shit. So I feel a little bit sad for humanity. I really do, when you actually really see the big picture. If anything, sometimes I'm almost envious of Liam, because he doesn't ever see any of this. You know, he'll just look out his window and see the sun shining or the grass growing, and not really get wrapped up in any of this. So that's sometimes, they say, ignorance is bliss. Oh well, what can you do? JFK, yeah, JFK is a perfect one. He tried to float silver dollars, right? Put the banksters in their place. Nope, not gonna happen. Reagan, if I'm not mistaken, that was interesting. Reagan finished his presidency with a very controversial speech at the UN, where he said, what would humanity do if we were actually faced by like outside alien invaders and stuff? And then you have to ask the question, this whole banking class and the tax. So, like, theoretically, the Anunnaki come to Earth and they actually exact a tax on humans, and they want to be paid in gold. So, I mean, how deep does this rabbit hole go? But we'll save those conversations for another day. As you can see on my screen, it is 1 o'clock. If anything, what a perfect segue. Josh, use that. Oh, boy. I don't know whether Josh is still here or not. So, have yourselves a great rest of your day. PMA for the win. Wish me luck with the boy. Hopefully I can give him a half-decent day here. That's my number one goal in life. Hopefully Bitcoin goes crazy and we can get him a nice house to end the year. Wouldn't that be awesome? That would be so perfect. All right. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. I'm glad I did this because, obviously there's some interesting conversations that we need to have. Let's, just keep on keeping on. Got your tinfoil hats on. Party, PMA for the win. All the best. And the only thing left for Brian to say at this point is a big bye for now.